Well, thank you. Appreciate everyone coming and appreciate these fine gentlemen. I think you can see that we are going to be well served by Representative Brian Green. So who here is American? Are you sure? Let me hear it. Who here is an American? We are Americans. And I'd like to talk about two of the defining characteristics of what an American is. One of them is our ingenuity. What has been the ingenuity of America? We have built, we have discovered, we have invented, we have created the most wealthy nation in the history of the world because of that ingenuity. But that ingenuity was only possible under the umbrella of what? Freedom. That's what made it all possible. Another defining characteristic is our goodness. What is the goodness of America? You look at the history of our nation. We have been willing to stand with other nations on this earth to protect them. We saved many nations from tyranny during World War I and World War II. We were willing and glad to send our sons and daughters to the beaches of Normandy, to the shores of Iwo Jima, and to the Bay of Incheon. We were willing to do this, to fight for the freedom of other nations and countries. We, in our goodness, have reached out to the world. We have fed the starving children of Africa. We have taken care of the refugees from numerous nations. We have welcomed them into our country. We are a nation of goodness. This legislation will destroy both of these characteristics in America. It will destroy them. It will take away the incentive to work and to earn and to receive the reward of our own ingenuity. It will take away the opportunity for us as citizens and individuals to reach out to take care of those who are less fortunate than ourselves. This may very well be one of the last nails in the coffin on the freedom of our nation. So what do we do? Do we sit by idly and let our elected officials and politicians let this come into existence? It's already passed. What do we do? We have got to take action. We have to do it civilly. We have to articulate to our friends and our neighbors. There are millions and millions of them out there that feel exactly like we do. We saw it 2 years ago, didn't we? 2 years ago, we saw unbelievable turnout to our caucuses here in our own state because of this very bill when it was passed. We need to find that energy, that faith and hope in America. And it begins here today. This is the beginning. Yes, we are few today, but tomorrow we will be many. We have got to find our neighbors and help them understand that no longer can they be the silent majority. We have to be the vocal majority. We have to connect them to our networks, be it the Patrick Henry Caucus, Utah Rising, or any of these other organizations that understand the 10th Amendment. This is where this fight will begin and end. We are calling for the citizens of this state to request and expect the governor of our state to call a special session. This is of that importance. Utah has the opportunity to be the leader in the nation. But it's not only leading our nation, but it's being a leader in the world. This legislation turns us into Europe. What does Europe look like today because of failed socialism? And we're trying to become like them. But yet we have the audacity as a nation to tell Spain and Greece and Italy that they've got to reduce the size of their federal governments, their national governments. But yet we're going just the opposite. We're trying to become like them. And we know it doesn't work. But it's going to be us. It's going to be the 50 states. Here's some other ideas. We've heard about nullification. We've heard about Representative Wimmer's bill. There are some silver linings in some of these rulings. Some of it needs more exploration. One of it is, Chief Justice says, hey, you can't force the states to take on the 133% of poverty level and grow your Medicaid to that program. Okay, let's go pass a bill and say, State of Utah isn't doing this. We're not going there. But you know what? There's some other things in the same avenue to stretch this ruling and give Chief Justice Roberts, let's see if he's a man of his word, to say, you know what? The state of Utah has been asking and begging the federal government for waivers in Medicaid so we can do it better and cheaper than the federal government tells us to do it. You know what? Let's go into special session and say, you know what? We're not asking anymore for waivers for Medicaid. We're doing it. We're implementing them today, right now, this summer. Let's take on the Commerce Clause, right? We have a little window that we haven't had for many, many decades to say, look, Commerce Clause doesn't apply here. Okay, let's take him at his word. Let's go pass legislation and let's knock down the improprieties and the excessive use of the Commerce Clause by the federal government. Let's do it this summer. Let's do it now. Yeah. So three things to walk away from here today. Go find somebody that is not connected, that believes as you believe. I think you'll find hundreds of thousands of them in this state. But it requires you to go talk to your neighbors. Connect them, get them involved, and then ask them to do the same thing. See, we've all kind of heard this around our state, right? You get a friend, gets two friends, they get two friends. We know how this works, don't we? Let's do it. Let's build an army of millions and millions of people across this country that will demand of their elected state officials that they will stand. We have drawn the line in the sand, and we're not retreating from that line. We need to pass legislation to take advantage of the few little underlying elements of this opinion. But then we need to push it. We've got to push it. We can't wait 6 months to do that. We need to send a message, because if we do, other states are already lining up to do this. Let's be the first state that steps off this docket and we pass legislation. Third, you know what? It takes money to run for office. Find your candidates for this November and support them. Knock on doors, donate to them. Find other candidates in other states. Sometimes things in our state are going to go kind of how we know they're going to go, right? Yeah. But that's not the case in other states. There are other great candidates out there that will repeal this horrible legislation. There are other great candidates running for state offices in other states that will stand against the federal government. Hook into your networks. You'll find these candidates. Give them $10, give them $50, give them what you can. Give it until it hurts. Because freedom is not free. Our founding fathers were willing to give their lives, their fortunes, and their livelihoods. Everything that they had, they were willing to give that. And many of them did. We are sitting at the same point in history, but it's 230 years or so later. We need to engage and be willing to give all that we have. Because if we don't, we know what we're going to look like as a nation in less than 5 years. Just travel across the Atlantic Ocean and you see the picture. Today's the day. Thank you for coming. We appreciate your commitment to freedom. We appreciate the many efforts. Most of us as candidates, we know you. We've seen you work on our behalf and on the behalf of other great candidates and conservatives in this state. Please, let's not give up hope. We can win this fight. Is it Bug's Life? Bug's Life with the grasshoppers and the ants? What's one of the statements the guy says? He says, there's more of us than there are of them. We need to remind Washington, D.C. of that. We need to remind our local state officials of that. There is more of us than there is of you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming out. God bless you. God bless our great country.